Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're embarking on well, a truly cinematic journey. We have a fascinating stack of sources here.
We do.
Two tightly written narratives centered on, high-stakes international intrigue and the extraordinary life of this character, Cassiopeia Vitt. And these documents, they aren't your typical historical textbooks, but they are absolutely stuffed with geographical, archaeological, and geopolitical detail.
That's absolutely right. Our mission today is a deep extraction, you could say. We are taking two really distinct, geographically extreme scenarios.
Extreme is the word for it.
For sure. First, an escape from a subterranean Russian operation deep in the Rila Mountains of Bulgaria, and then a desperate high-altitude chase near the world's tallest peaks in Asia. And we are going to dissect them.
Right.
We want to pull out the core historical, the logistical, and the cultural details to see, what factual realities are really underpinning this narrative of survival and exploitation.
We're essentially performing a study in contrast here, tracing this narrative arc that spans 5 years and connects two seemingly impossible locations.
That's a huge leap.
A huge leap. We're moving from ancient, lost civilizations buried deep within European mountains to, modern geopolitical conflicts happening right on the edge of the Tibetan Plateau.
Yeah.
So the driving question, the thread that ties all this material together is this. How do these seemingly separate episodes, involving ancient Thracian tombs, Russian uranium plots, and a deadly chase across the Himalayas, how do they connect? And what specific details bring these incredibly remote locations and intense conflicts to visceral life for you, the listener?
It's a compelling connection. We're connecting the dots across 2 continents in 5 years, all through the lens of a protagonist who's just trying to navigate a world where history is constantly being used as a cover.
A cover for some really deadly modern exploitation.
Exactly. We're looking for those moments where the weight of the past dictates the brutality of the present.
Okay, so let's unpack Act 1 and this setting. The Rila Mountains in Bulgaria. This is the backdrop for the Balkan Escape.
Right.
And the source material immediately establishes this intense sense of remoteness. We aren't talking about a short drive outside the city.
No, not at all.
We are over 200 kilometers south of Bulgaria's capital, Sofia.
Oh, wow.
This is a very deliberate choice for a clandestine operation.
And that location, it's defined by its sheer inaccessibility. The Rila Mountains have some of the most dramatic topography in the entire Balkan Peninsula.
And the documents get specific, right?
They do. They mention specific features, deep cirques, sharp peaks, and glacial moraines. But it's not enough just to list those terms,
Okay, so break that down.
Well, a cirque is that massive sort of natural amphitheater that's carved out by a glacier. It often has these sheer walls and high basins. And moraines are the ridges of debris, rock, and soil that are left behind by those same glaciers.
So why is that combination so important for the narrative?
Because that combination of features makes the Rila region one of the most rugged and least surveilled parts of the entire Balkans. It's a natural fortress.
A natural fortress.
Yeah. The deep cirques hide valleys and access points from above. The sharp peaks make any kind of, say, rapid traversal or air support incredibly difficult. And the loose, unstable ground of the moraines, that limits any heavy vehicle access.
So it's perfect for hiding both a 5,000-year-old tomb and a deadly modern secret.
Exactly.
I find it interesting that the name of the mountains themselves kind of contradicts this idea of isolation. The sources note that the residents once named them Rila, which means well-watered.
That's a crucial insight into human geography. For the outside world, it's isolation. For the people who live there, Rila means life.
Right. Water is everything.
Access to fresh water was paramount for those ancient communities, and the high snowmelt and the numerous rivers fed by these mountains, that fulfilled that need. So that contrast between its reputation for rugged isolation and its vital function as a source of water is often overlooked.
Which makes it the perfect place for a secret operation. The initial cover for Cassiopeia Vitt's presence there is an archaeological dig.
Or, as the Russian guards sometimes call themselves, rockhounds.
Right, rockhounds.
Which is the perfect bridge to the deeper history, the Thracians. This is the lost civilization that gives the entire excavation its initial, supposedly legitimate purpose.
This is a fascinating people.
Oh, absolutely. The Thracians were a fierce, warlike, nomadic people who settled the Central Balkans nearly 5 millennia ago.
And their story is incredible because, despite their historical importance, their legacy is purely material, not literary. They left such rich, tangible artifacts, yet we know them mostly through the lenses of their enemies.
Exactly. The sources immediately place them on the world stage. They were first mentioned in Homer's Iliad.
Which puts them right at the dawn of recorded Western history.
Right there. Described as allies of the Trojans fighting against the Greeks. This wasn't some minor tribal group. They were major players in the ancient Mediterranean world.
And they certainly caught the attention of later Greek writers. We have to address the very spicy reports from Herodotus. He was always the great storyteller.
He was.
And the sources share his reports on their customs, noting that they sold their children and, maybe most controversially, allowed their wives to commerce with whatever men they please.
And we have to remember, Herodotus was often writing about cultures he considered, barbarian. But these are the specific, provocative details that make the Thracians stick in the historical record. They illustrate a social structure that was radically different from the Hellenic world.
So they were powerful, culturally unique, incredibly fierce. They dominated a massive area stretching across northern Greece and southern Bulgaria for a long time. But their trajectory is one of slow, inevitable decline and assimilation.
It was a fascinating, drawn-out process. They were initially conquered by Alexander the Great, which introduced Hellenic influences.
Then the Romans.
Then reconquered by the Romans, who ruled them for centuries. And ultimately, they were assimilated by the incoming Slavs around the 6th century A.D.
But the profound tragedy for historians, and the whole reason Cassiopeia Vitt is so interested in their tombs, is that they developed no written language.
That's the critical point.
Right.
Because they left no scrolls, no detailed histories of their own, the only real legacy, the only verifiable traces of their existence that remain are their tombs, their Haruns.
So we are literally digging up their dead to understand their culture.
That's it. And these tombs are frequently filled with fabulous gold and silver treasures.
And these tombs are what put the central region of Bulgaria on the archaeological map. We hear about the famous Valley of the Thracian Kings, where so many priceless treasures have been unearthed.
Right.
But Cassiopeia isn't there. She's deep in the remote Rilla Mountains, hoping the site her Danish friend Henrik Thorvaldsen stumbled onto was truly virgin.
And this is where we hit the core thematic conflict. The conflicting agendas of pure archaeology versus, well, dark modern exploitation. Cassiopeia's motivation is rooted in a pure passion for medieval architecture and the desire to study a potentially undisturbed Thracian tomb.
One that might unlock secrets about their belief system or engineering.
Precisely. But the Russian operation, which has infiltrated this archaeological dig, has an entirely different, highly contemporary purpose.
Yeah.
The discovery of a large uranium deposit.
And that's the pivot point.
Yeah.
This is where 5 millennia of history run headlong into modern geopolitics.
The sources are very clear about this mineral wealth. While Bulgaria is historically rich in manganese, coal, copper, lead, zinc, and gold,
It's the uranium that matters now.
it's the uranium that matters. It was openly exploited by the former Soviet Union during the Cold War. So this discovery elevates the risk exponentially. It turns a historical mystery into a life-or-death confrontation over strategic power.
It's the perfect illustration of why history is often just a mask. The Russians aren't interested in the 5,000-year-old customs or the gold.
No.
They are interested in the Cold War legacy of mineral exploitation that still drives nuclear and strategic power. And they are willing to employ deadly force to keep that secret locked within the mountain. The stage is set.
So now we go underground. And the sources provide a remarkable level of descriptive detail about this subterranean environment. We start with the first chamber, the one the Russians allowed Cassiopeia to see.
The one she quickly figures out is just a looter's tomb, or an antechamber.
Right. And this space is described to immediately create a feeling of claustrophobia and danger. It's a rectangular chamber about 20 meters long, but with a low, jagged rock ceiling.
The atmosphere is described as thick and fetid, cast in this strange bluish tint from steaming halogens. It's a very unwelcoming entryway.
Definitely. The structure itself hints at its ritualistic purpose. There's a specific altar described. A rectangular slab of blackened stone supported by round pillars, elevated by a platform hewn directly from the floor rock.
So it's clearly a sacred space.
It speaks to the sanctuary function of the Haruns, which were complex structures designed for ceremonies honoring the deceased hero king.
But the real insight comes from the remnants of the St. Wall frescoes. They depict this violent hunting scene.
Right, a boar being attacked by a horse-mounted hunter and, crucially, a naked man wielding a double axe.
And the narrative slows down here to let Cassiopeia make her deductions.
And that deduction is our deep dive moment into Thracian symbolism. She recognizes immediately that the double axe, the Lebris, represents royal power and authority.
And the naked man.
The naked man is the solar god Zalmoxix. This is the key to understanding the culture they're excavating. The solar god Zalmoxix, associated with immortality, was central to the Thracian identity.
So this art confirms the Thracian origin and, importantly, that it predates the widespread influence of Greek culture Hellenization.
Exactly. The frescoes show dark-haired Europeans, which corrects that historical misconception that they were blue-eyed and red-haired.
And it's this small, crucial deduction that triggers the suspicion of Peter Varga, the Russian security agent,
Who had mistakenly identified the initial findings as merely Roman.
So Cassiopeia's knowledge is a threat because it proves she understands more than they want her to. But she also realizes the room itself is a sham.
A total sham. Thracian rectangular vaults usually had 3 rooms, and this one was clearly stripped. It confirms it was looted long ago.
Which leads us to the real discovery. The secret that Lev Sokolov, the geologist, has been hiding. This is the real undisturbed Heroon.
And the structure is a revelation. It's circular, 20 meters in diameter, which is a massive scale for an ancient burial site. It's constructed of limestone walls and ancient timbers.
And it has that classic Thracian beehive architecture.
Right, leading up to a dramatic domed ceiling. This beehive structure, built without mortar, is a testament to their engineering prowess.
The central art here is far more preserved, more symbolic. A vibrant maroon color that somehow survived 5 millennia of burial.
It's incredible. The vault's central camera contained the image of a horseman being bestowed a wreath by a goddess, and surrounding them was a high relief of stone statues, women encircling the vault like silent observers.
This is undoubtedly the resting place of a powerful king.
And the sheer volume and quality of the artifacts, well, they confirm this was a priceless virgin find. You have to pause and just visualize this. At the center is the deathbed, fashioned of stone, and the remains of the skeleton lay anatomically correct.
And the sources give this chilling detail about the skull.
They do. It was large and possessed a huge gash across the right side, confirming that this warrior king died violently from a head wound.
And the wealth, I mean, it's just absolutely staggering. This isn't just a few trinkets.
Not at all. This is the full panoply of a Thracian noble. We hear about the gold band around the neck bones.
Gold brooches, earrings, greaves.
Oh, a corded and patterned gold armlet showing incredible skill in metallurgy. A figured, tapered, and burnished gold dagger, and even shoe remnants embellished with gold stripes.
Oh, wow.
And beyond the personal wealth, there were ceremonial objects showing the deep ritual aspect of their lives. Exquisitely shaped rhytons.
Those are the drinking vessels, often shaped like animal heads.
Exactly. Amphorae, phials, each gilded and embossed with mythological scenes. They weren't just accumulating gold, they were turning it into high art dedicated to their gods.
And then, the items related to warfare and transport. These are the most remarkable feats of preservation. A bronze-plated wooden chariot.
With 4 wheels, each over a meter across.
Unbelievable. Lavishly ornamented with petrified wood that somehow survived the centuries. Beside it lay wooden and leather harnesses, bronze body armor adorned with more goddesses, and a sword with a gold-studded pommel.
The discovery proves their reputation as both fierce warriors and incredibly sophisticated goldsmiths and engineers. It's astonishing that this priceless, world-changing historical context is simply a distraction.
Just a distraction for the real goal, the uranium deposit. And this brings us to the men guarding the secret, Peter Varga and Lev Sokolov.
They're perfect foils, aren't they?
Absolutely. Peter Varga, the Russian security agent, is the pure projection of state violence. He's the keeper, projecting dominance. And we see him immediately resort to violence, slapping Cassiopeia when she challenges him. He embodies the menace of the operation.
He represents that ruthless commitment to strategic exploitation. But Sokolov, the geologist, he's the man of conscience trapped by circumstance.
Right. He's an expert in oil research, but he was forced to confirm the uranium find because a colleague became sick.
He's not a true believer. He is actively disillusioned. The sources emphasize his deep personal hatred for the Soviets and Russians in general. He actually says, "I hate the country and everything it is."
So his motivation isn't loyalty or profit. It's entirely personal and desperate. He needs to escape to join his pregnant wife in China.
The dynamic is so stark. Varga is crude, loyal, and just immediate menace. Sokolov is learned, trapped, and unpredictable.
And that tension is the key to the next section. Cassiopeia realizes that if she can turn the man of conscience against the man of menace, she might just find an exit.
This personal drama, played out against the backdrop of 5,000-year-old wealth and deadly uranium, is what elevates the entire narrative.
The moment Varga threatens her, Cassiopeia knows the discussion is over. Her escape strategy is purely tactical. It relies on exploiting the immediate environment.
It's a great scene. She throws a fist-sized rock at the light bar in that rectangular chamber, plunging the entire space into instantaneous, absolute blackness.
It's a classic tactical move sensory deprivation.
Exactly. And it buys her that critical 15-pace advantage she needs to move toward an unknown exit. As she falls into a water-filled chamber below, a large warm pool, colored blood red from high iron content, Sokolov's voice whispers down from the hole, "Go left!"
And this is the great paradox of their early alliance. Was it help or was it a trap?
She doesn't trust it.
No. She instinctively ignores him and goes right, and immediately finds the threat. A block of plastique with a timer ticking down from 15 seconds. She just leaps away before the explosion tears the tunnel apart.
That first blast seals the tunnel she came from, which eliminates Varga's direct pursuit route. But her suspicion is immediately reinforced because as she runs further, she finds a second bomb.
To the left.
To the left, which was where Sokolov told her to go, timing down from 30 seconds. This is the moment where any trust is just completely shattered.
It raises some serious questions.
Yeah.
Was Sokolov trying to double-cross her, intending to seal her in the secondary tunnel?
Or did he genuinely think the right side was sealed and the left was the only way, not knowing the Russians had planted a second charge?
She realizes either he was misinformed or he was deliberately setting a wider trap to ensure everyone thought she was dead, including himself.
Either way, she has less than 10 seconds. The explosion from the right is catastrophic. A chunk of rock the size of a Mercedes slams down. The two blasts combine to consume the tunnels, sealing her inside a space she describes as a long, narrow box.
Barely 1.5 meters high, with a dangerous slant to the floor and ceiling. Her survival detail here is one of my favorite nuggets from the source material. It just demonstrates her methodical thinking under pressure. In absolute darkness, she turns on her flashlight and notices the dust particles.
They're moving.
They are moving. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, but shifting to the right. She deduces air movement, which means there has to be an exit point somewhere.
That small observation leads her to a slit in the rock, about 1 meter long and 1/3 of a meter high. She manages to widen it by repeatedly slamming the soles of her boots into the loosely stacked stones.
This isn't a quick action hero scene. This is painstaking, desperate work.
It is. She then crawls through a series of increasingly tight spaces, describing the final descent as a laundry chute-like path, before sliding headfirst out into a completely different, roomy tunnel. She has successfully navigated a high-velocity engineered demolition.
And moments later, she meets Sokolov. He had survived Varga's wrath, lost the other two men.
And this time, the alliance is sealed not by words, but by the tangible transfer of trust. He hands her his loaded gun.
And said simply, "I am not the enemy." She does press him again on the go left advice. And his response is crucial for restoring the narrative trust. He admits he thought there was only one bomb and apologizes.
He claims he came back hoping she made it this far, acknowledging the mountain is a massive, complex maze.
Right. He needed her help to escape the mountain as much as she needed his geological insight to survive the blast.
So Sokolov's escape plan now comes into focus. He leads her away from the main tunnels and into the spectacular natural feature, the base of an inverted cone of rock. A massive chasm formed millions of years ago, rising 50-plus meters to a ragged opening that reveals the sky.
It's a breathtaking landmark. It just reinforces the wild, untamed nature of the Rila Mountains.
From there, he reveals his own secret project. He leads her to the true Thracian tomb entrance, the one he had previously blasted and kept secret from Varga.
Which confirms that Sokolov had been preparing his own independent exit strategy long before Cassiopeia ever arrived. He knew confirming the uranium find would turn him into a prisoner of the regime.
But just as they reach the portal, Varga arrives.
He wasn't defeated. He had been watching.
Varga's surveillance was chillingly astute. He knew Sokolov wanted to help her and was monitoring his every move. His line is one of the most revealing in the whole story. "Your eyes, comrade, they betray you."
The final decisive moment. Varga plants another plastic bomb with a 40-second timer at the tomb entrance to ensure there are no witnesses left.
But Sokolov, having anticipated multiple exits, reveals his true hidden ace. a small, secret crawl tunnel exposed by his earlier blast, intended as his personal escape route.
They scramble into it just as the explosion rocks the ancient Harun. They emerge on the far side of the mountain, successfully having put distance between themselves and the Russian camp.
And Sokolov believes the Russians now think he is dead, which is his ticket to freedom.
And he delivers his final philosophical judgment on his former countrymen, which really elevates his character from just a geologist to a disillusioned prophet.
What does he say?
He says, "This is the thing about Russians. Nothing is really important. That belief will be their destruction one day." It's a striking commentary on ideological nihilism versus personal commitment.
It really is. So they separate. Cassiopeia heads toward a village and ultimately Sofia, while Sokolov heads south, aiming for Greece and then China to meet his pregnant wife and his unborn son.
He's given up everything for his future family. And the final line of this first act is the perfect prophetic setup for our second source, the emperor's tomb. Sokolov's final comment to Cassiopeia is, "Who knows, maybe one day you return favor."
And that phrase, a simple acknowledgement of a debt, is what drives the next 5 years of the narrative. In this world of high-stakes intrigue, debts are always called in.
Always. Often when the stakes are highest and the geography is most unforgiving. So fast forward 5 years, the debt is due, and we transition completely from the subterranean shadows of the Balkans to the bright, thin air of Central Asia.
A whole new world.
Cassiopeia Vitt is now operating with Cotton Malone in the northern areas of Pakistan, or, depending on who is signing them out, the Xinjiang Autonomous Region of China. We are 2,000 miles from Beijing, far from any major power center.
The contrast is absolute. We've moved from the ancient, water-rich, forested Thracian mountains to the greatest congregation of towering peaks on the planet, the roof of the world.
Right, and this location is smack up against a hotly disputed border, a geopolitical pressure cooker.
It's not just a disputed border, it's a tri-border area where India, Pakistan, and China all claim sovereignty. These nations have fought skirmishes over this desolate, uninhabitable region for decades. The geography itself is a weapon.
And this is where the world's most formidable mountain ranges just collide.
The Himalaya, Karakum, Hindu Kush, and Pamir ranges all merge right here. We are talking about an overwhelming landscape of jagged, snowy summits, many reaching above 20,000 feet.
The sheer scale makes any military or clandestine operations just immensely complex and high risk. The narrative takes time to paint this picture, using details that bring the region to life beyond just the peaks. It's described as the land of black wolves and the famous blue poppies,
Ibex, and the elusive snow leopards. This natural grandeur is interwoven with this deep historical mystique.
It carries an incredible amount of cultural significance. This region is possibly the inspiration behind James Hilton's fictional Shangri-La.
It's a hidden paradise.
The Hidden Paradise. It was once called Hunza, a princely state that maintained an astonishing degree of independence for over 900 years before finally losing sovereignty in the 1970s.
And there's the truly fascinating local lore that connects directly back to our previous discussion of Alexander the Great. The sources mention the fair-skinned, light-eyed locals who claim to be descendants of soldiers in Alexander's army from 2 millennia prior.
That's a perfect thematic echo. We were just talking about Alexander the Great conquering the Thracians in the Balkans. And here, 2,000 miles away, his legacy still lingers in the bloodlines and stories of a completely isolated population. It links the history of conquest across vast distances.
Isolation, however, is key. This region remained completely cut off from the modern world until the 1980s.
And then they built the Karakoram Highway.
Right, linking China to Pakistan. That highway is a crucial piece of infrastructure that suddenly made the area accessible and strategically vital.
And that strategic vitality is precisely why Cassiopeia and Malone are now in the middle of a desperate pursuit. The terrain they are moving through is, it's extreme tactical hell.
Absolutely. They are over 8,000 feet above sea level, running along a steep, narrow trail held precariously by loose boulder-retaining walls.
And the sources describe canyons that are so deep and sheer that sunlight can enter only at high noon.
Which means low visibility, dramatic temperature shifts.
And constant danger of rockfall. It's a claustrophobic, high-altitude environment.
The gorge dropping away to their right is a constant, terrifying presence. The river rushes far below, gray with sand, freezing cold from the sheer mountain snow sources, carrying heavy silt and rock.
They're exposed, they're vulnerable, and they soon realize they are being pursued by Pakistani soldiers specifically.
Which indicates their precise location and intent were known in advance. Malone suspects they were deliberately led to this exact place.
And their destination, the point they're being herded toward, is marked by a clear cultural landmark. A figure, maybe 15 feet high, carved directly into the rock face.
A Buddhist image.
A Buddhist image. This suggests a specific predetermined crossing point, which, as we soon learn, is not an escape route, but a calculated trap.
And that trap is the bridge. The description of this shaky bridge is just visceral and terrifying. It's constructed of shaky poles, wedged upright horizontal timbers connected only by thick hemp.
And the footwalk consists of moldy boards dangling precariously over the torrent.
Suspended entirely in open air with zero cover. They estimate it's less than 100 feet across.
Cassiopeia's comment, "This bridge has seen better days," is just a massive understatement.
A huge one. Malone realizes that crossing this narrow, exposed structure is their only option, but it also makes them a sitting target. So as they begin their desperate crossing, a new sound cuts through the roar of the freezing river far below. It's a rhythmic, mechanical sound of profound power.
Deep bass tones. Thump, thump, thump.
And that sound quickly materializes into the threat. An AH-1 Cobra attack helicopter.
This detail anchors the case firmly in modern, complex military reality. The source notes it's American-made. Specifically provided to Pakistan by Washington to aid in counterterrorism efforts.
So our protagonists are being hunted by the sophisticated hardware of an ostensible American ally. It adds a layer of tragic geopolitical irony to their predicament.
It does, and the technical specifications make it clear they face an overwhelming force. The Cobra is a twin-bladed, dual-engined machine of war.
And it's carrying 20mm guns, anti-tank missiles, and aerial rockets. Malone mentally characterizes it as fast as a bumblebee and equally maneuverable, capable of moving at over 170 miles per hour through those canyons.
They have zero concealment and zero means of defense against this level of speed and firepower.
None.
Malone's immediate tactical deduction is the most terrifying part. They were herded to this precise spot for this exact purpose.
Right. The bridge wasn't a natural crossing they just stumbled upon. It was the engineered bottleneck where they could be cornered and eliminated with surgical precision.
Right. The attack is brutal and immediate. The Cobra targets the bridge instantly using its 20mm cannon rounds. This is high-caliber, destructive fire designed to penetrate light armor.
The source describes a steady procession of sharp, violent pops ripping wood and rope with savage fury.
And the pilot's aim is terrifyingly precise. The cannon fire is concentrated specifically on the 10-foot section of the bridge between Malone and Vitt.
The result is total annihilation. The structure is instantly gone in a cloud of splinters and debris, creating a 100-foot chasm between the two halves of the bridge.
Malone realizes the entire span is collapsing beneath him. His only chance is a desperate sprint across the final 20 feet of intact planking. He reaches the far side, clinging precariously to the ropes as the destroyed halves swing violently away from the gorge walls.
He holds tight, and as the momentum carries the divided half back toward his side, he is violently slammed into the rock face. But he survives. He makes it.
He survives the immediate destruction, but the fate of Cassiopeia Vitt is immediate and tragic.
She survives the initial blast, clinging desperately with both hands to the dangling half of the bridge, 100 feet away from Malone across the gorge.
The situation is completely untenable. There is no way for her to cross or for him to reach her.
And the threat is not over. The Cobra, after its first pass, executes a dangerously tight turn inside the deep canyon and begins another run.
Malone screams at her to climb, knowing the cannon fire is imminent, but she can't ascend the dangling, unsteady structure.
As Malone watches, the inevitable happens. Cassiopeia loses her grip and falls 50 feet into the churning, freezing river below.
And the source material is grimly specific about the lethality of that water. It is freezing cold, sourced directly from mountain snow.
It's gray with sand and possessed of a formidable current, a current designed to carry heavy silt and rock. The narrative stresses the danger. Boulders protrude along its path.
She disappears immediately, consumed by the current and the cold, leaving Malone believing she is gone forever.
It's a devastating sequence. A character who successfully navigated a complex Russian uranium plot and multiple plastique explosions inside a fortified Bulgarian mountain
Is seemingly eliminated 5 years later, not by an ancient curse or a hidden tunnel, but by a tactical ambush using high-tech weaponry and the sheer brutal force of the natural world.
It connects the danger of the past to the ruthlessness of the present.
What an incredible deep dive. We extracted an enormous amount of detail from these sources today, tracking the story of Cassiopeia Vitt from the Rila Mountains of Bulgaria all the way to the Karakoram Range in Asia.
It's quite a journey.
We saw the specific symbols of Thracian royalty, the double axe and the solar god Zalmoxix, and immediately juxtaposed them with the modern geopolitical realities of Russian uranium exploitation and those, bitterly disputed Asian borders.
The true insight here, I think, lies in recognizing how seamlessly this narrative weaves together deep, often forgotten history with immediate personal peril and massive global power struggles.
Yeah. The 5 millennia-old wealth of a Thracian king becomes utterly secondary to the worth of a uranium deposit.
A strategic material that still dictates global power.
Exactly.
And then 5 years later, a personal debt owed to a disillusioned geologist is settled in a land where the legacy of Alexander the Great still lingers in local lore. It's the convergence of history and current events that makes this so compelling. And we see the ultimate thematic connection in the sheer fragility of survival. Cassiopeia Vitt's brilliant escape from the Rila Mountains, using wits, geology, and persistence against guards and engineered blasts,
Only leads her to this apparent final moment 5 years later in the Karakoram.
So the question isn't whether she survived the 50-foot fall into that freezing, churning river, because, narratives like these rarely end on a canyon floor.
Yep.
Rather, what is the cost of constantly facing these world-spanning conflicts?
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Here is a character of great means, the owner of a multi-billion-dollar corporation whose true passion is the meticulous, careful restoration of medieval architecture. Yet, she constantly finds herself hunted, betrayed, and trapped in situations of extreme violence, risking everything for historical truth or to settle a debt. So if the pursuit of ancient knowledge continually puts you in the crosshairs of global power, what does that suggest about the true cost of being well-informed or indeed insanely curious in a world where every piece of history is potentially connected to a deadly modern secret?
It's a question of whether curiosity is a virtue or a liability when the stakes involve uranium and attack helicopters.
Something to mull over until our next deep dive.